So today we are installing LeakNet on this pipe here. The mains is coming up from the blue pipe going into 22mm, teeing off annoyingly right and left into 15mm. So what we're going to do is, there's a few options. We could either go on the 15mm, put one system on the left side and one system on the right side, so we cover the whole building. But actually we're going to tee off the mains, branch right and go back up into the tee. So for this, all we needed is this middle fitting here. We've got a 1-inch flow sensor and valve, and we've got the unions going from 1-inch to 3/4 inch and 22mm fittings on the end. We like to use the unions when we're fitting in a straight line, so that you don't have to move the pipe much. But actually in this case, because we're doing a bit of replumbing, we're going to just go from 1-inch to 22mm compression. We could have done soldering or press fit, but we wanted to make this video for the everyday DIY person, so anyone with very basic tools can do this. The other option was to do 2 systems on the 15mm pipes, and I wanted to show how little pipe space you actually need to fit these in. So on here we've got the flow sensor and the valve going from 3/4 inch to 15mm compression, and you can see here that's less than 15 centimeters. You could also use push fit if you want, and that's also easy. Everything's hand tightened there with some washers in the middle. For the bigger pipes, we use motorized valves with flow sensors. On this build up here, we've got press fit fittings going on to 28mm copper. So the tools that you need for this are 2 wrenches, a wire stripper, pipe cutter, and PTFE tape or washers. For the larger pipe, you'll need some hacksaws, but for now it's quite simple. Once these are plumbed in, we'll then cable this all up to the LeakNet base unit and connect it up. So Arliss is now going to assemble the valve and flow sensor for LeakNet, which is the most important part. There's a washer inside the compression fitting, which is a flat edge, going to a flat edge, so no PTFE tape needed. The washer will maintain the water tightness. So that goes on the valve. There's an arrow on the valve telling you which direction the flow of water is going. If I can focus right. So it's going up. And we're going to put the flow sensor before the valve because the flow sensor works better when there's a bit of straight pipe before it and the valve acts as a bit of a bend. So again, there's a flat edge on that valve, so put a few washers in before putting the flow sensor in. So again, there's a flat edge on the flow sensor, tighten that up so that both flat edges join and those washers again maintain the water tightness. Again, a washer's in between the fitting and the flow sensor. Okay, so now we are beginning the cabling of the flow sensor, which is over there, and the base unit, which will be inside a cupboard. So for the solenoid valve there is a plus and a negative. The plus goes to the red cable and the negative goes to the black cable. And for the flow sensor it's just a simple plug connector. Can't really go wrong here. You can only go in one way. Then we'll tidy all that up and show you how to cable it into the base unit itself. So we stretched the cables, made sure they're tight just to keep it tidy, and now we're just cutting them, stripping them and cabling them into the base unit. So you don't need much to strip. Maybe about 5mm will be enough for the terminal blocks inside the base unit. So now we're cabling in, we're referring to the manual. We've got a 1-inch flow sensor and a solenoid valve. So these are the connections that we'll be fitting in: white, green and brown, red and black. So for flow sensor, we're going to put it in number one if you've only got one of them. And if you have a meter, then there's different connections, but for the flow sensors, this is the right connection. The valve, very simple: red to positive, black to negative. So we can see the base unit is flashing blue, and now we'll start programming it. So now we're going to connect the base unit to the Wi-Fi, and to do that we're going to go to the web browser, Chrome, and then go to flowreporter.com. And if you don't already have an account with a username and password, just go to register and fill in some simple details. When you've done this, you'll get an email, click the link, and then you can log in, and we'll start from there. So now we're all registered, we're going to log in. And when you first log in, you will not have any devices. So we'll register a new base, and it'll tell us make sure that the blue light is flashing on the base unit. So we've just done that. Continue. Even though we're on a tablet, it's the same process. We now disconnect from the Wi-Fi we're on, and we connect to Photon. When it's connected, it'll say no internet, and it might give you a warning saying that there's no internet available. Make sure you keep the Wi-Fi connection. We're not connected to the internet, we know that. And then go back to the original screen and make sure you are connected to the Photon Wi-Fi before continuing. We are. Make sure that we're not connected to any phone networks, so there's no 4G appearing up here, and then press I'm connected. It then shows you all the Wi-Fi that's nearby. We're going to connect to our one. Funnily enough, there's 3 of the same Wi-Fi here. I assume there's probably lots of repeaters around, so we're just going to connect to the strongest one. And now I'm just going to pause while we put the password in. So put the password in and click connect. So we wait a few seconds for it to connect. And what we should see is either the base unit flashing purple to indicate it's updating, or it's flashing or breathing light blue when it's connected. So we're just going to have a look at what it's doing. And we reconnect to the internet that we were connected on before. And now we're checking to see what lights this is showing. So we press continue. And then we're taken directly to the device configuration screen. In this screen, we can name our device something relevant. In this case, it's on the house names. We choose our flow meter size. We have the option of 3/4 inch, 1 inch flow sensors, or a water meter, in this case 1 inch. and the valve can either be solenoid or motorized, and then click Save. We should then be taken directly to the device settings page, and it's important to note that the alerts will be disabled by default, and that's because this device hasn't been used yet, and so we don't know what alerts would be sufficient. If you want to enable alerts immediately without learning, you can just simply click Enable Leak Alerts and set your permanent thresholds whatever time you desire. It's a two-stage process. You first get alerted, and then if you don't do anything with that alert, it shuts off after a certain amount of time. But ideally, after a week or so, you would want to learn these leak alerts using dynamic learning. After installation, it's important to know if the sensors are working, and so this is why we would go to real-time view. In real-time view, we get to see not only the condition of the internet connection, which is indicated by seeing these dots appear, but also the flow sensor and the valve functionality. So at the moment we've got a tap open and the valve closed, so I'm just going to go down here and open the valve. First of all, we should see the tap turn on, and if the flow sensor is working correctly, we should see the flow rate increase. And then we'll close the valve just to confirm the valve works as it should, and also see the flow reduce to 0. So in this case, everything works fine. I hope you've enjoyed this video on how to install LeakNet, and hopefully see you soon. Thank you.